Good afternoon. It is a glorious day in Brentwood, Tennessee. Welcome to the February 10th, 2023 meeting of the Rotary Club of Brentwood. I am past president Michael Hindman. It is my honor to be able to assume the throne, if only for 1 hour, once again. President Jane Covington should be out on bail next week and will be back at the podium. So we look forward to her being here. Today, Jim Davis will lead us in, or James Davis will lead us in the invocation. Michelle Lafayette will lead us. Michelle Buchanan is much easier. Will lead us in the pledge and four-way test. Secretary Steve Hammers will introduce guests and visiting Rotarians, and President-elect Drew Rogers will collect happy bucks. Please keep in mind those members and family who are recovering or ill. Sue Kane is recovering well, I'm told, which is good news. Bill McCarthy and Leon Partain continue to be in our prayers, and Sherry Koss as well because of the loss of her husband. So, James?
Thank you, Father, for this beautiful day that you've given us. And thank you for letting everyone gather here. And please be with those of us who can't be here and lost loved ones. We praise you, God. You're wonderful. And thank you for this organization. And bless us as we continue this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance. And for the four-way test, first, second, third, and fourth.
Steve? No guests, no visitors. All right. Well, good. That gives our speaker an extra 30 seconds. Drew? Is this still going to be for the ice cream social?
I have no idea. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
Yes. Hey, so everybody, if you're happy, then all proceeds from Happy Bucks today will be going towards the ice cream social, which there's information on your table. So I am interested in those that are interested in ice cream. So, geez, Ray.
Thought I'd make you walk. I'm happy today. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to be in South Florida and be a part of something that many of you in this room joined in 2016, and that was the Hockey Ministries International All-Star Prayer Breakfast. And it was neat seeing a lot of old friends, people that I text with regularly from actually all over Canada and the United States. And a part of you all with me, and that's why I'm wearing the All-Star jersey from the 2016 game here. But that was really a fun time, and something I've wanted to do since we had it here is to attend one in a different city. And I got to go to a very fun and enjoyable and competitive All-Star game. So I'm very happy about all that.
Great. Jeff, did I see you with your hand up earlier? There you go. Well done. Jared.
As a Nashville native, I'm going to say, go Doors.
Somebody's got to be able to respond to that.
I won't. I'd say most of us in this room would classify ourselves as spiritual people. For some, it means more than different things to different people. But for me, it's faith. And if you watch the Super Bowl this Sunday, which most of us will, 65 to 80% of us will watch it, the commercials, right? The commercials. So there's gonna be two commercials that be looking for. It says, "He gets us." Jesus gets us. It's commercials specifically about drawing attention to the man Jesus.
Thank you, Mark. While I walk around and capture anybody else that is happy, I did put $5 in, so this is not an Alan Treadway IOU moment. But there's a lot of exciting things coming, and I want you to be prepared for this in the month of March. We're going to be having a membership drive so here we sit on February 10th. You need to be thinking about those that you would invite to come to enjoy our club, hear great speakers, and participate in the fellowship that we get to participate in every week. So please be thinking about that as we go into the month of March. Anyone else? Here we go. Keely.
Mostly just ice cream money, but also, also just wanted to remember Cliff costs and Sherry's loss. Several of us were able to make it to the service last week, and that was lovely. But Sherry's definitely could use our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
So my daughter is 5 years old and is going to her first daddy-daughter dance this evening. And yes, it is really nice. I'm buzzing. So it's just an exciting time for us.
Michelle, what's her last name? Okay.
I've broken out some of my best dance moves at a father-daughter dance. Anybody else happy that would like to share their happiness? I think it's going back to you.
Great. Thank you very much. We do have a few other announcements. Jody, about our ice cream social.
So next Friday is International Random Acts of Kindness Day. And we are so honored to be going to Jordan's facility and serving ice cream to the residents right after this meeting. And so we'll be buying the supplies next Friday and taking it with us. So that's what's on your table. Just a reminder to hopefully as many of us will attend as possible. But also on your cards, Lee could not be here today, but the hospital is doing a huge Random Acts of Kindness Day, but they do Kindness Matters every day. But they're asking people if you have time to write a note to a patient. They're giving every patient at the hospital a note just of kindness next week to kind of cheer them up. Because a lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't have anybody to visit them. So anyways, thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Pancake Day will be coming up very soon. Julie Porter and Jordan.
So this is your committee for personnel. Anyway, by now, hopefully you've seen the email that came out from Jordan. And then right behind that was an email from Jack Nassari with the link to sign up online. Or you can sign up, there are sign-up sheets on your table. It's April 1st. Setup will be a little different this year because it's at Brentwood High School, not the middle school. So we're gonna try to get in there Wednesday early morning and just kind of see what that space looks like. We do ask that everyone sign up or volunteer for at least one shift or all if possible.
Yes.
If you have any questions,
Shoot me an email, come talk to me, whatever you need. Any special requests on certain types of shifts that you want to work or certain jobs within that, please let me know and we will do our best to get you where you are, first come, first serve. So the sooner you sign up, the sooner you get your guaranteed spot. Thanks. Yes.
I would say like, from what I understand, Michael, I mean, the toy, like the games, the clowns are gonna be in the front entrance of Brentwood High School.
Sure.
So you're gonna go in the front and there's like a little lobby and then the cafeteria. And then, from what I've heard, the grills are gonna be on the other side of the cafeteria on the parking lot. But the tables will be set up in the cafeteria, kind of like Brentwood Middle School. So, any other questions? That was a good one.
Well, and I'm glad you asked. As you all know, if there's one thing this club needs more of, it's clowns. And so I encourage you, as you sign up for the time periods that you're willing to work, to make note on there that you would love to be a clown. You do not have to have your own outfit. If you don't we can take care of you and we can make you look really good. So if you want to participate working with the kids and the crowds outside, please sign up. We do need more clowns.
It is April Fool's Day. It's
So-
not a joke. Happening on April. I'm sure we'll have a lot of pranks going on that day, so. Anybody else? All right, let us know.
Thank you very much. For those of you that are relatively new to the club, keep in mind, this is what represents Rotary to the community. People may not know anything about Rotarians other than they serve great pancakes once a year. This is our best opportunity to interact with the community and to put on a good face, or a clown face, as it may be. The Little Harpeth River cleanup was a great success. Patrick Wright is not here today, I'm told. But the Keep Williamson Beautiful has reported back that we collected 1,360 pounds of trash. That's the most that we've collected since Patrick has been organizing the event. Skip Hebert would say that he probably collected far more than that when he was in charge. But it was a great event, and I think from what I was not there this year, but from what I saw, it looked like a lot of folks participated, and another great way for us to be represented in the community. And now for our speaker, any other announcements that we should make mention of? Jeff Brown will introduce our speaker. Jeff?
One of the things that always amazes me about Rotary is the connections that just seem to pop up. Shortly after moving here, we got an invitation to attend an event at the Franklin Theater. And that's where I met our speaker, Grant Martin. We got to talking and he started explaining some of the things he does as Chief Development Officer for the Williamson Heritage Foundation. And I said, would you be interested in Rotary? Well, as it turns out, Grant is a former club president and a former assistant district governor. And a secret I will let out at this point in time, he has yet to find a Rotary home here in Williamson County. So maybe he'll consider our club. But Grant is the Chief Development Officer. He wears many hats, including fundraising, marketing, and the preservation efforts, which is a big effort all to itself. He's a accomplished fundraiser, having raised over $175 million for universities, museums, and other institutions, and has been here in Williamson County for what, 2 years?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years. So without further ado, let me welcome and have you help me welcome Grant Martin.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing me to come and speak to the club today. It's always fun to be around fellow Rotarians. I've been in Rotary for about almost 30 years. And what I always found about Rotarians is they give back to the community. And that's why I'd like always being a member. With the Heritage Foundation, who can tell me what year did this organization start? Any ideas? So we got started in 1967. And the reason we got started was that there was a historic building that was torn down in Franklin, or a historic home. And so the people got together and started saying, you know what? We're losing about 4 to 5 homes a year in historic places in Williamson County. In 20 years, if this continues, we'll lose over 100. And that's one of the reasons why people have moved to Williamson County is because of all the historic places. So that's how we got our start. So when you think about our organization, we're now a 57-year-old organization. We've educated over 50,000 students through our education programs. We have put over 134 buildings on the National Register. We now have 4 divisions, and we have about 2,500 members and donors involved with us, and 4 major annual events attracting, it's actually more than 400,000 people. Okay. So our pillars: preservation, education, and advocacy. So let's talk about a few of our divisions. So the work here in Williamson County, when you think about like the Franklin Theater, we saved that building. That was about to be torn down. Several other buildings. You think about Main Street. Who was here when we did the Main Street campaign to totally just change downtown Franklin? Okay, that was pretty significant because downtown Franklin was pretty much a ghost town at one time. A lot of the businesses had closed and it wasn't a desirable place to come down to. So we got involved in the 80s to kind of turn it around, get the brick streets and the lighting down there, and also as far as with the buildings themselves. So we did that push, and then we also started the festivals for the in the area. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. So preservation education. Well, we have the Rick Wark lecture series. Has anybody ever attended one of those by Rick Wark? If you haven't done that, you need to do it. If you want to find out what Williamson County is all about, he can tell you so many fascinating stories. It's always something different. You will love attending his lectures, and he does them about 3 to 4 times a year. One of the things that we're doing, or we have started this year, when you think about preservation, how many residents do we have in Williamson County? Now, all right, now, what's the total number in Williamson County today? So we have about 250,000 residents. What is it supposed to grow to by 2040? Double. Where are we going to put 500,000 people? Well, one of the things we do know is that development's coming whether or not we like it or not. So let's make sure that we have smart development. So we are launching 2 efforts this year. One, we are going to do a GIS survey of all the historic sites in Williamson County, from your black and white cemeteries to your Civil War sites to your pioneering family homes, all the in the Native American sites. We want to make sure that those are all identified so that when development comes and government officials are looking at, okay, we'll go ahead and let, have 50 acres of land here and be developed. Wait a second, there's 3 sites on there that are historic. We want to make sure they're preserved. We also have people coming into our office building and asking us, hey, I just moved here. I just bought 5 acres in Leapers Fork. Can you tell me something about this piece of property? Or I'm over here in Brentwood. What's on this property? We want them to be able to know what is there. But the main purpose of this is to make sure that we save these historic sites. Another thing that we're doing is that we're launching a preservation advocacy program where we're inviting people, residents from Williamson County, to come and learn how to become preservation advocates. Because what we have found, when there are certain meetings or government meetings, whether or not it's at the city level or it's at the county level, and they're discussing different things that are happening as far as with the development, when we show up as a group, we might have 10 people between staff members and board members, but they look at us as just one person or as just one spokesperson. But if 10 homeowners shown up, they look at them as 10 different homeowners, bigger voice. So if you care about Williamson County and you want to make sure it's preserved the way it is today or as close as it can, you need to become preservation advocates. And we tell you how to do that by educating you on what's here, what's on the horizon, what you need to be informed about. And then what we'll do is periodically throughout the year, we'll let you know, okay, you need to show up to these meetings to have a voice. So let's talk about our festivals. So who's attended our festivals? So you got Main Street, you got Pumpkin Fest, and Dickens of a Christmas. Isn't that one of the best ones? We had one of the best ones this year, right, Keely?
The best with the best sponsorship as well.
That's what we were talking about. So how many people do you think we come to the festivals on average in a year, given year? Well, it's close to 400,000. So that's key. But let's talk about These ones, so we had Main Street, and that's coming up in April. And that's, and these are all like arts and crafts festivals. We have about 115, 125 artisans and craftsmen that are there. It's showing off their wares and they're selling them. But then we also have a lot of events that are happening on the streets and at the theater. Pumpkin Fest is in October. And then we have Dickens of a Christmas. And if you haven't been to the festivals, you need to come. It's a great family-friendly time. Main Street is 2 days. Pumpkin Fest is 1 day, and Dickens of a Christmas is 2 days. The best, what I can say as far as for parking, if you arrive early, you find great parking spaces. If you try to come down about 11 or 12, it's going to be packed. Come down at 3, you'll find parking spaces. But why did we do the festivals? We brought the festivals, and some of these are nearing almost getting to be 40 years old. We wanted to bring attention to downtown, area, so that people would come and shop local. I want to mention one other thing about with preservation that we're doing too. We have historic cities in Williamson County, historic downtowns, but there are also historic downtowns throughout the state of Tennessee. And if we're not careful, we're going to lose them. There are 32 states that have historic tax overlay districts. Tennessee is one state that does not. So what ended up happening, and this is what we're finding, in the state, for instance, with downtown Franklin, when they had the property assessment or appraisals that were done about a couple of years ago, building owners went from paying, like one building owner went from paying $30,000 a year to a little bit over $100,000 a year. So what does that mean? They pass it on to their tenants to pay, and then the tenants end up having to pass on those increased costs to the people that are shopping. But sometimes they can't afford to pass that on. So what ends up happening is that we could have more box stores coming in to that area. Or, nothing against bankers and lawyers, I love you all. But do we need more loyal offices and things like that? We need to make sure that downtown area stays local shops. That's what kind of makes people why they come to Williamson County. So we work together with putting a tax overlay district bill, which was approved by the county, and now it's being tweaked by the state. Sam Whitson is kind of leading that effort. It'll probably take us several rounds of doing this, but we have to start somewhere. And our hope is that once this gets passed, we can save more of the historic downtowns in the state of Tennessee. The Heritage Ball, anybody have attended the Heritage Ball? Now that's quite a place. When you think about it, that's what we've had it over at the Eastern Flank Battlefield. We had this year a little bit over 1,000 people at the event. But this is our largest fundraiser for preservation. Downtown Franklin Association is the one that's responsible for putting on the festivals through the Heritage Foundation. But the Downtown Franklin Association has a little bit over 200 members, which are comprised of not only business owners, but also building owners. And it's just with promoting businesses, 16 block area. Franklin Theater. Who's been to the Franklin Theater? Okay. Got a prize here. What year did it start? No. What year did the theater open? 38. You're close, but you didn't win. 30, who said 37? It's on the slide. It's right there, 1937. So what happened with the theater is that, when it was started, it only just showed movies. And then over time, getting, approaching like 2007, it was closed. They couldn't make it, couldn't make a profit. So it was closed, and it was in danger of being sold. It could have been turned into a business or a church or something there, and we would have lost this historic theater. So what was pretty neat is that we were talking about this, how can we save this theater? And we had a board member who was also a volunteer for many years, who stepped up to buy the building. And then we raised another $8 million to totally renovate the theater into a performance center, okay, art center. So not only can you show movies, but you can also attend concerts, and there's events there. How many events do you think we have at the theater a year? Got to go up higher. We have more than 500 events that are at the theater and an annual business. I mean, annually. When you look at the number of live performances, that's well over 125. So who's been to the theater? You definitely need to come because it's quite an experience. What I like to do, my wife and we'll figure out when there's a movie or when there's a performance being done, and we'll go to like 55 South or Cork and Cow or something, and we'll have dinner, and then we'll go and see a movie or a performance. Definitely worthwhile to go. All right, Franklin Grove. Who knows something about Franklin Grove? What's on that property? Okay, we have 2 historic mansions on the property. So it's 5.2 acres of land, a couple of blocks off of Main Street. And 5.2 acres of land, 2 historic mansions. This one right here is called the Winstead Mansion. That was built in the 1860s. Fantastic history with that, when going back as an all-girls school to an African-American school to involved as far as with the Civil War. We just had an archaeological study that was just done on a couple places on the site. We found parts of mess kits that were there, and of course bullets and things from the Civil War. So it's a neat place. But this building is going to be turned into an art museum, and that's going to open in 2025. And we will have exhibits in there about twice a year. So another cultural institution coming to the area. There's another mansion called the Center for Innovation, and that's the Lehue Mansion. That was built in the 1890s. This is in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. So we have 8 offices in there. So when you have businesses that entrepreneurs are trying to start a business in Williamson County, and they've outgrown their home or their garage, and they're looking for a great space to go to, well, they fill out an application, they get interviewed by the chamber, and they get to rent these offices from anywhere from $250 to maybe $600 a month, so they can grow their business. And a lot of times they stay there for a couple of years. Have a lot of great success with that. So we're going to move a historic building to the property. Now, this will get you a prize. So who can tell me what a Rosenwald school is? Rosenwald. Okay. Rosenwald schools were built back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. And they were schools that were built for African-American students in the South. And there were primarily a little bit over 5,000 that were built. These one room, 1.5 room schoolhouses were state of the art at the time. And Mr. Rosenwald was the CEO of Sears and Roebuck. And he teamed up with Booker T. Washington to build these kit schools for $175. There are less than 500 today standing, and there's only one in Williamson County, and that's in Spring Hill. We have bought this dilapidated schoolhouse, but it has fantastic stories. We have interviewed, in fact, when we bought the schoolhouse, we sent out the word that we bought the schoolhouse, and we asked former students to come to see the school that they hadn't seen in years. And we got great photos. We got their stories, oral histories, and they're in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. But this school is going to be moved to the property, and it will be totally renovated. It will be just like what you would have attended back then, as far as a school. So another great place for people to come to. And then the History and Culture Center. The History and Culture Center is the McConnell House. Anybody know where that is? That's where Red Pony had moved when they had the fire. So who can tell me what the McConnell House was way back when in 1905? It's the old, do you have a pet? You know, I like that one, you know? So the History and Culture Center, you know, this is the old jail. So there's three olds. So that was a jail from 1905 to about 1940. And that has 3 floors. And it's quite a unique structure. There's a lot of events that have been held in this space. And what we're turning it into is a history and culture center. So it's going to be like a regional history museum of this area. We're going back, you know, 3,000-4,000 years, about when the Native Americans were here, going all the way up to present day. The stories will be told with a lot of interactive screens and touch screens, and we'll have artifacts in there too. But what's nice about this facility is that it's going to be able to be changed on a periodic basis. So when you come there, you're not going to see the same thing twice. And let's see here. So that concludes the part of the presentation, but the current building, our administration building that we're in, is known as the old jail. And has anybody been to the old jail besides serving time there? Okay, so has anybody seen this? So this was done by one of our inmates at the jail. He was one of our most frequent inmates. He was always known for stealing cars. He was there for like 40 years, always going in and out. So he did this, and he says, I got screwed by Williamson County. You know? So, anybody, any takers for this shirt here? So, when you come to the old jail, that's our administrative office. We can take you on a tour of the building. So it has 3 floors. And we actually have a jail cell that was another famous resident, and she had basically killed two men. I mean, killed a man and killed a woman. So she's a pretty bad lady. She was the first woman to be put on death row to be executed by the state of Tennessee, but she was never executed because the governor at the time didn't want to be the first governor to execute a woman. So she ended up dying in prison. But if you are looking for a space to, you know, to maybe have a meeting with your company, we rent out the boardroom. There's a solitary confinement room in that space there. So if you have a board member or an office person getting out of line, you can just put them in solitary confinement. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
I live within walking distance of downtown. First question is the city hall, which was built at a time, I guess they didn't care what things looked like. Is there any talk about them moving out and then putting something people would like in that place, like a retro building, but has restaurants and stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about that going on right now, and about with moving City Hall. I think there's a lot more to come on that. They've asked us to kind of weigh in on a few things, and we're still trying to survey our members to kind of find out which way we want to go. But there's more to come on that. I don't have any exact answer for right now.
Second question, you may have a pulse on this. You know, the building they built for the bank and Ruby Sunshine is on the circle, and there was supposed to be a space on the top floor for an outdoor restaurant. Are you familiar with that?
I'm sorry, I'm not. So. But I know that you had a question, and that you want to go ahead and ask us. That some people might want to know.
I want to know. Could you talk about the Beechwood Hall?
Okay.
Home.
Sure. So who's familiar with Beechwood Hall? Okay. So if you go into downtown, you might see some signs, some red signs that say Beechwood Hall. And Beechwood Hall is a historic home built in the 1800s. It was an all brick building, great looking building. Around the 1900, it had started losing a lot of the grout in between the bricks. And so they ended up putting stucco on the building or on the home. And basically kind of encapsulated it with a stucco. So then over time, it started having some issues with water in the building with the structure. And then there was a time for about 10 years that it was just used as a barn to store hay. And then in the 70s, a couple bought the home and they wanted to modernize it at the time. So modernize the bathrooms and in certain places in the building. So it's not, doesn't have that same historical feel. Still has some of the features, but it had changed. And then what happened after them, it sat vacant for 40 years. Now, what makes it interesting is that Hank Williams, Senior had owned the house at one time. You had Faith Hill and Tim McGraw had owned the house, but they didn't live in it. So the house sat vacant for 40 years, went through numerous owners. And what happened about 3 years ago, a couple bought the house. What ended up happening, there were some investors who bought the place and then they flipped it real quick. And then they bought the house. And when they started looking into the home, they realized this place is in pretty rough shape. So they brought some architects in from Nashville to take a look at it, see what could be done. During that time period, they said we need to take some of the addition that was added during the 70s off the building because it was rotting, it was in bad shape. So they did that, and then some people kind of felt like, oh, they're going to tear this historic building down, and they better not do that. That's what some of the people had said. You can't do it, and so they didn't know the full story, and so what ended up happening is that the homeowners contacted us and said, "Can you help us? Can this building be saved?" So we put together a 120-page plan that was presented to them in January, and they're considering what they can do. One of the things that the Heritage Foundation is all about preserving historic structures and sites, but you also have to be very respectful of the homeowners too. They have to weigh in too. So all we can do is present a plan on how things can be done, they can be fixed. It's up to them to do that. There has been some misinformation, that has been out there, which is unfortunate, as far as against the Heritage Foundation, but most of it's been false information. So. My understanding is he lived in the house. So that's kind of, it's a lot, it's well over 200 acres of land. So there's more pieces to the story that, since most people don't know anything about it, I don't need to go ahead and go into too much of a detail. Back.
So an answer to your question. So there was going to be a restaurant on the top floor of Ruby Sunshine, but there was a noise ordinance issue. They wanted live music, and they couldn't get past that. So now it's private offices for that.
Okay.
And the second is just to say, there's a crown jewel for Nashville. I think it's the Skirmhorn. For Williamson County, it's the Franklin Theater. So thank you for doing that. I miss my feet sticking to the floor back in the day and put my feet up for watching movies, but we love that place. It's a great venue. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
My question is, if you could go into a little bit of how you classify a historic building, what your criteria are, and what might not be classified as that, just a little understanding on that.
Yeah, so when we look at that, we have a preservation team that goes and starts doing the history of the buildings, and we're pretty much looking at those. We can look at buildings that are 50 years or older, and then we kind of put together that history or what's so special about this home. But when you got a home that's over 100 years old, that's a very special home, and so we look into doing that. When we work with putting houses on the historic register, we work with the homeowners to do that because there's a cost factor in making that happen. But once they're on that historic register, then they, it's very hard to have them. I mean, you can't really tweak that building too much. But I can find out. We have a presentation that we do on that, and that might be something to attend. Oh, okay.
Did I hear or read something just in the last few days about the factory and the building a elaborate entranceway into Franklin down through there where Battleground is and all that, that involved the factory and a large scale.
They're doing a
project
big
there.
complex there. They are. It's going to be called the factory, as far as with the shops. So that is being done. They'll have a number of restaurants in there too. I think Studio 10 is going to have their theater in that spot too as well.
One thing that this is not a question, it's kind of an announcement that Grant and I have been talking for the last couple of months about having a club event at the Franklin Theater or at the Historical Museum. And so we'll be working on that to put together a social event for the club at one of these venues and give everybody an opportunity to kind of see firsthand some of the magnificent work that they've done and also enjoy the facilities as part of our Williamson County heritage.
So one of the things we do have, we have a balcony that seats a little bit over 40. And we can grow that to 48, but it's about 40. And it's a special place. So if you wanted to have as Rotarians, and there's a bar area out next to that, you could have your own private reception there. You could go ahead, oh, we're going to see this performance, work through me, and then we can get the tickets all bought, and then you can have your own, your wine and your beer there, or whatever you would like to have, and just have a Rotary event. So a lot of different things we can do. So I would like to say, who has the cutest dog in this room? Well, you know what? This hand went up fast.
Yeah. I got 3 of them.
Sure.
So you had mentioned kind of briefly the historical tax overlay
Mhm.
that I think y'all had maybe generated or advocated for. Could you explain, I'm assuming that's a tax district that would be at a lower rate than it currently would be. Could you explain a little more what the purpose of that is, what the anticipated financial reduction or impact it would be? And is that to county dollars or to state dollars or to both?
It would be to both, but still working through all the details, and we're trying to see if we can reduce the tax level for the building owners in not only downtown Franklin, but other historic areas, kind of working out that, that great compromise that will work to make that happen. So it's in the beginning stages, but what we did realize is that if we didn't start talking about it and start getting something going with it, and we didn't get the government involved with it, in 4 years, we're going to lose a lot of our historic downtowns in Tennessee because we've got so many people coming into the area. It's a process. So
Is the purpose of it to
lower the taxes.
Just straight up lower the taxes?
Lower the
on
taxes
owners?
for them, because a lot of people don't realize too, also with these historic buildings, there's a lot of money that goes into keeping them historic. Mhm.
This may not be up your alley also, but at 5 points where the lights on Columbia Highway, there's several eyesore type buildings there that are, 70s looking garage. Is there anything we can do about that?
Yeah. You have to get, you have to come and come to the historic zoning. You have to talk about that. There are ideas and there are plans, as far as what's going to happen down Columbia. We all know that Columbia is going to be widened, so there's going to be a lot done there. You got the site where HG Hill is right now. A lot of talk about what's going to go there, talk about a land swap, with the city, Don't know if that's going to happen. There's other developers who are looking at trying to do a land swap too. But this is where it comes into play with concerned citizens to talk about it. So when we get involved with projects, especially we have a program called Sites to Save. And so people can nominate historic buildings that are in the area and say, you know what, you need to, we need to pay attention, to this particular home or structure, because if we don't, we're going to lose it. And so we have it as a sites to save, and then we get a lot of information out about that building. So that's another way we try to preserve some things. And next year at the art festival, we are going to have artists that are going to paint every site to save structure that we have put on that list. And it's about a little bit over 40 for people to see that at the festival, to say these are all the historic places, just to bring some public thought to it, to make sure they save it. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Jeff, as a former Rotarian, we hope that you do consider our club and come visit us. You can come to lunch anytime here. Jeff says you'll be on his tab. So keep coming until you decide to join. Grant spoke about preserving old things. Did he pick the right audience or what? So we also have a gift for you. Do you have a pet?
I do.
Well, great. This pen can be used as a chew toy.
Oh, I love it.
We also ask that you use the pen to sign your name in this book. You go right in here. We use these books for education. We read to Alabama football players. So, and we will tell them all about you. So, thank you so much. We have on meetings, of course, coming up. Next week is the MTSU Director of Political Economy Research Institute. 2 weeks from now, former Brentwood Mayor Jill Bergen and Todd Horton will speak about Williamson County roads. And then on March the 3rd, Congressman Bob Clement will talk about Tennessee history. So we've got some great programs coming up. If you enjoy the programs, if you enjoy the food, if you enjoy the good friends here, do bring your friends. Continue to invite people. We love to have visitors come. As always, we will put away the tables and chairs. If there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, any other announcements? Then we are adjourned.